need
tonight. I want to learn. So Zohar Protas is a sita that has to do with holding back tears. So whatever. This is what we were slated to learn today. First, let's read quickly. You have a chumash? Here, chitas. Bring a chitas or a chumash. Okay. Really, we're focusing onto one pasuk, but just quickly to get a picture, so we really understand. Let's start at Kapitel Mem Beis. Mikeitz Mem Beis. Very fast. And then we're going to get to the main pasuk. I want to deal with the Rashi. Vaya Yaakov ki yesh shever b'Mitzrayim. Vaya Yaakov avon b'lomet Yisroel. Mem Beis pasuk Aleph. Vaya mehina shemat ki shever b'Mitzrayim. Redu sham v'shever lonu misham v'nichel le'nom. V'yerdu achi Yosef asar alish bar b'Mitzrayim. V'ez Binyamin achi Yosef lo yisholach. Yaakov v'sochav kama pen yikurena os. Then pasuk Zayin vayar Yosef azecha vayakinim v'yisnaker alayim v'yitabritim koshes v'yomer alayim ayim bosam v'yomer eretz Canaan which baruch. When they bowed to him, he realized that here the dream happened. Vayakir Yosef azecha v'hem lo yikiru v'yisker Yosef esach halemus ashecholam lahem v'yomer alayim meraglam atam lirilis erves oretz bosam v'yomer elav lo yadoni. Not true. V'adecha bol ish baruch lono b'nei ish echad noch. He said no. And then pasuk Tes-Vuv, bezoyste b'cheinu chayfarim teitzum azeh kim bevoy achichem akotan heinu shilchu mikem echad v'yikach es achichem v'atem me'osur v'yevchonu divrechem emes itchem imloi chayfari kim raglamata. Okay, now they feel bad, and Posek Chofei, Beitzav Yosef, Vaimalus claim Bor. Then they go back to Eretz Yisrael. They tell Yaakov, we have to bring our younger brother. He doesn't want. Turn the page. Kapitel Mem Gimel. Varov Kovet Boretz. And finally, Yehuda convinces his father to send Binyamin. Turn the page. He says, okay, I'm going to agree you should take the brother. And then turn the page. And they came down. Yosef. Yosef itam is Binyamin. Yosef sees Binyamin. So the people were brought to Beis Yosef. First, they're scared. They apologized about the kesef that was back. He said, no, don't worry about it. It's all good. Pasuk Chazayim, Yishalom l'shalom, v'yem ha'shalom avicha mazokim, asher ma'artem edenu choy, v'yem l'shalom l'avdecha avinu edenu choy, v'yiktu v'ishtachu. V'yisa einav, he picks up his eyes, v'yaretz Binyamin ochid ben imay. V'yomer azeh achichem akotem asher ma'artem eloi, v'yomer Elohim yochnecha ben yinyi. Okay. Now we're going to get to the pasuk where this is where for tonight. The pasuk, which is, and the Rashi we're dealing with tonight. Yosef made things very quick at this point. Why? Yosef, all of a sudden, his rachmanis started to burn. I'm just using the wrong word because I'm just going to use Rashi's word in a second. He wanted to cry. He went to his room, and he cried in his room. And then he walked out of the room. Let's go look at the Rashi. Before we get to the main Rashi, let's go to Tes. Elohim yochnecha v'ni. Okay, b'shor shvotim shamanu chanina k'shechona lakim asavdecha v'nyomen adayin loy noyla lachem birchi Yosef b'chanina. Okay. K'nichmur rachma sholo yesh lach och me'ein. You have a brother from the same mother. Amar loy ocho you leave any day. I have a brother, but I don't know where he is. Yesh lechabonim. He said, "Do you have any sons?" Amar loy yeshli asora. I have 10 sons. Omar loy umashma. What are the names for your sons? Omar loy belo vecher v'goyme. Omar loy mativim shemas. Those funny names. What do they mean? Omar loy. He said to him, Kulam Hashem ochi v'atzoras Hashem matzu. It's all from my brother and also for the tzoras. Belo shenivlo ben umas, that he was swallowed between the umas. Becher shevcher liyimei. Ashbel sheshavei kel. Gedish in his gara bachzanya v'naimet shenoyim b'yoyse. Achi v'rosh achi oishiroshi hoye. Meipi mipi ovilomen. And the chupim shaloi rochu posi v'larisi anichu posi v'or kyor laben agoyim kedisa mesecha soita miyadrich nichmeru rachma. Nichmeru, Zakrashi means ischamamu. And he brings a word in French for nichamamu. Argmontina, ubaloshna Mishnah al koimer shel zeisen, ubaloshna Arami mishum michmar bisra, ubemikro ereinu kesanu nichmaru. In these three places, you see, nichmaru means niskamaru, that his herachimim made him get very warmed up, and he was about to cry. And then the last Rashi from Eicha, Rashi says, "V'nikmetu kemotim kemotim." He got squeezed from the heat. Very technical Rashi and a very Gishmak Rashi, a very emotional, drama-filled Rashi, and a very, very super technical Rashi. Okay, classical Rashi Sikha. Let's start with the first Rashi. Who told Rashi this fantastical story when there's no indication of Pshuta Shal Mikra? They had a conversation. Do you have a mother? Do you have a father? Do you have a brother? How many sons? What their names? It's very unusual that Rashi should bring a Medrash Chazal and bring all the 10 names and explain. A lot of times that's Kedisa B'Gemara. Sometimes,
and look over there.
Yeah, look there. He already said Kedisa M'Sechasoitis. Obviously, it's of the Medrash Chazal. He quoted where it is. Why does he have to say Kedisa M'Sechasoitis? The same Maimah is brought in the Medrash Tanchuma and Medrash Rabbah, and every Medrash Kamat brings the same thing. Why does he say Dafke? Bottom line is, Mshuta Shemikra, who told Rashi this whole fantastical story? How is it Muchach Mshuta Shel Mikra? And if it's already Muchach Mshuta Shel Mikra, why does he have to say Kedisa Besoita when the same thing is brought in every single Medrash on this pasuk? B'chlal, it's a little funny. First, Nichmuru means that he has a Rachmanis. So first tell me the Pshat of the Pirush and me listen, and then tell me a Gishmak Medrash. Why tell me first the Gishmak Medrash and then the Pshat of the word? Sir, Nichmuru Rachel means he had Rachmanis. Yosef didn't see his brothers for 22 years. He's excited. He had Rachmanis. He didn't see his brother for 22 years. So first say the translation of the word, and then tell me the fantastical Medrash. Why's the opposite? Now let's get to the technical stuff. These 4 questions were good. Now the Rebbe Tzachnemen to the vein of the second Rashi is Molekush's Kenim, says the Rebbe. As soon as Rashi needs 3 dayas for something, you know we're in trouble. You know we're in trouble. Why could he not bring 1 daya? Obviously, there's something missing. Obviously. Yeah, why does he have to bring 3 dayas from 3 different places? That nichmeru means niskaman. Why does he have to bring 3 dayas? Why does he need? Why does he have to bring the is sashmamino as ein ray is nicht genug und die andere ergänzt das. Ergänzt. That's a good word. Ergänzt means is mashla. Ergänzt. It's a good word. That against that
you would not understand which one.
That's what you. So why do we need 3 dayas? Number 1. Number 2, if you look, it's a very funny way. He says first Lashon Mishnah, then Lashon Arami, and then from a pasuk. I would say the best, says the Rebbe, the best is to start with a pasuk, then the Mishnah, then Arami. What's the order over here? And with every daya the Rebbe has a problem. Koy Mishal Zeisen, it's a Mesachas Boba Metzia.
So
the besides the Seder not being right, if you look in Take in Eicha, he brings a raya from the Gemara Yavamis. Gemara Yavamis is before Baba Metzia, and the Gemara Yavamis. You see how Yavamis is earlier. me show you. Yevamis, this is the list. Baruch Hashem. We haven't had a better year, all old is years. Every Mishnah everything is taken already, Baruch Hashem. Every Mishnah, everything is taken. Everything is taken.
Miracle.
Baruch Hashem. We had a few new customers this year, Baruch Hashem. Now, started to this whole project. Noshim, the first is Yevamis. Then is Nezikim. The second one is Baba Metzia. So, and over there's also in Baba Metzia, the Gemara talks about Koimer Shel Anovim. Either one, Koimer Shel Zeisim, Koimer Shel Anovim is the same thing. Before they would press the Zeisim or the Anovim, they had a big basket, and they would put in the Zeisim and the Anovim, and they would put it in a place that would be warm, and the acids would start, and it would get hot, and the heat would like eat up the acids, and the heats would eat up the grapes and eat up the olives, and then it was easier to crush it and to grind it. That was a michmer. Michmer was a certain basket where the zeisim and anovim were heating up in that basket.
When you do dough for challah or bread, you don't just do the dough and put it in the oven. You make it.
Yeah, it has to warm up a little bit. It has to, they had to warm up a little bit. Yes, similar. Yeah, similar, mamish like that. So in the Gemara in Baba Metzia, there's a whole story. We'll talk about it in a minute. The Gemara says that Rabbi Yochanan was very upset. They said something in the Beis Medrash not in his name. So Gemara says, "What do you care?" He said, "Because when a tzaddik passes away and you say something in his name, his lips are moving in the grave, and it's like a michmor shel anovim, just like if you have a basket of anovim that is sitting over there and they're fermenting. If you touch it, even all of a sudden the juices start leaking out." So a tzaddik in his grave, if you just say one word from his Torah, his lips start moving in the cave. The point we see michmor means heat, and Ashitake and Eicha brings that eye from there. So why does it Ashi bring from michmor shel zeisim and not from michmor shel anovim? And then he brings lashon harami, michmor bisra from the Gemara Pesachim, which is a whole shaila about the meat of the Korban Pesach over Shabbos, if it's going to get heated up, if they shecht it Friday and then they don't roast it till Matzah Shabbos. Is it going to get spoiled? It's called michmar bisser. It's going to get hot and spoiled. But the Rebbe says there's a Gemara in Brachas. There's a Gemara in Brachas. The Rebbe probably did a search on the Oitza Chachma, no? There's a Gemara in Brachas, Daf Mem, which talks about certain things that the bracha, their bad quality, the bracha sha'akol, and noivlos. And the Gemara says, what's noivlos? Bishli kumri. That they're these tamarim that are sitting in baskets and they got burnt from the sun. So over there, michmar also, we see that there's a word michmar earlier in Shas. And the third raya also, why does it have to bring a raya from Eicha? A pretty sad raya. There's two rayas befedish in Tanakh. One raya is in the story of in Malachim, in the story of Shlomo Melech, the first judgment Shlomo Melech made was two women, Shnaim Noshim Zoinus, and each one said the baby belongs to me, and he said, you know what, we're going to take a knife, we're going to cut the baby in half. So one woman who was really the mother said, Nichmeru Rachmeh, her rachamim were conjured. She couldn't take it. They're going to kill her baby. She said, let the other one have the baby. So Shlomo said, oh, she's the real mother. So we have over there, and Faket, over there, it's talking about emotions. In Eicha, it's talking about the Nebuch, when a person is starving, the skin gets hot and gets and the skin starts shriveling from heat, like imploding. It's not emotions. Here we want to say nichmeru rachmav, that his rachmonis, like we're starting to, like, his inner juices of his heart were starting to get fakvetched. He was starting to about to cry, and that was like the mother that they were about to kill her baby, and she was about to cry. Or similar to that is in Hoshe, which is at the Haftarah we had recently, that the Eibishter says that he has a rachmonis on the Yid, and also it says nishmeru nechumoy, that I have rachmonis on a Yid. It's talking about emotions. So why does Rashi bring a raya from a funny, obscure pasuk in Eicha when he could bring from earlier in Nevi'im two rayas? Okay, enough from the shilas. Let's go to the teretz. There's many more shilas. The Rebbe says, Pshat, a 5-year-old. Everyone, a 5-year-old, Pshat. 5-year-old is learning with the Rebbe. He sees like this. What's going on? He says, wait a minute. Start Shishi. Vayar Yosef itam is Binyamin. He doesn't choke up with emotion. No, cool like a cucumber. 20 psukim later, again, when they're in his house, a few hours later, when Yosef comes home, Vayvi lo mincha asher biyodom v'shtach v'lo yortze v'yishel lahem l'sholom v'yom hashalom avichem azok v'yom asher martem edenechoi v'yom hashalom v'yiktu v'yishtachu v'yiseina v'yaretz b'nyom mocha b'nimah. He doesn't start crying. He says, "Azeh achichem akotem asher martem eloi." Yeah, but Pashas he made believe that he didn't know him because he knew him already before.
Right. So what's
It's like gemacht nicht wissen the kilo. He was playing a game. Pshat. So they said, yeah. He gave him a bracha. He's not choking up with emotions. He's composed. I get brachas. I macht a cheshbon. They all already had it. Child says, wait a minute. You didn't see your brother for 22 years. You see him, cool like a cucumber. 6 hours later, you see him again. Megita magroisa bracha. 5 minutes later, you choke up in tears. What happened? I don't understand. You didn't see your brother for 22 years, and he's cool like a cucumber. The child understands that. Even if he didn't look chsidus about moyach shalat alalev, a child knows that he's a king of the whole Egypt, and he can't start crying in public. It doesn't look good for the king. It's not a good image. It's not a good image from the White House that the president breaks down in tears. It doesn't look good. And anyway, he has a whole cheshbon how he wants to deal with his brother. So he doesn't want to cry, right? And he's beyat kifa. The whole, he takes him in jail. He is beyat kifa. Perfect place for Chanukah. Give him a plate.
Yeah.
So the child understands that this guy is in control of his emotions. He never cried once, nothing. And this guy is Yosef is sharp. Even if he doesn't know Moich Shalat Lev, he sees this guy is on top of his game. He never shows any emotions on the outside. He's a tough cookie on the outside.
Why now?
Mitnamol, something happened. Vayemaher Yosef, ki nichmaru rachma. Vayavakesh because he ran into the door, he slammed it. Vayev kshama, and he washes his face, and he comes out. The child says, Rebbe, what happened? In the beginning of Shishi Vayar Yosef, you didn't cry. Then that was in Pasuk Tezayin. 15 psukim later again, he sees Vayares Binyamin. I get them brachas v'arebe. Doesn't cry. And mitnamol now Vayamar Yosef. Something must have happened in between that he almost couldn't. He almost
hold himself all the time.
He must have plotted. So Rashi brings from Soita. Why from Gemara Soita? There's a lot of medrashim. Each one says a little differently. But Rashi likes the Gemara Soita will go best for a Ben Chomesh Lamikra. What was he gave him a bracha and he said Elohim Yochnecha v'ni. Yochnecha. Yeah, Yochnecha v'ni. The Eibishter will give you Tanina. So, and it has to do with children. So Rashi, it's a medrash from Gemara Soita. It's not but he has no choice. Rashi's Mahalchim Shat, the Rebbe said, was he's going to use sometimes Madrash Chazal. It's not like the Even Ezer, which is never going to use Madrash Chazal. Something happened over here. The child knows that something is happening over here, that all of a sudden he was about to plot and he was about to explode and cry. What happened to Yosef? He was about to explode and cry. So Rashi says there's a Gemara in Soita that says like this. He said he had a conversation with him. You have to understand, how old is Yosef when he was sold? Yosef was 17 years old when he was sold.
22 years later.
22 years old later. 22 years later. Now, let's think for a second, says the Rebbe. How old was Binyamin when Yosef was sold into slavery? Now we know that when Yosef was born, immediately Yaakov said to Lavan, "I want out." Lavan said, "Oh, Baba, come on. Where's the gold? I want to give you a tray of Dubai gold." Okay, what are we going to do? For 6 years, he's stringing him on, and he's working for him for another 6 years. Then Yaakov leaves, and he's on the way for a summer, a winter, a summer, Chai Chadoshim, 2 years.
A year and a half.
A year and a half, he's on the road. He comes to Yisrael, and right then they have Binyamin. So when Binyamin was born, Yosef Atzadik was about 8 years old. Was about 8 years old, 7.5 or 8 years old. 10 years later, Binyamin is about 10. How old is Binyamin? About 10 years old, because Yosef is now 17 years old when he's being sold. He knows his brother. He's 9 or 10 years old. Now, 22 years later, he got married. He has children. He says, "Tell me, how many children?" He says, "I have 10 children. What are their names?" Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Nocher, Lloyd. He gives him 10 names. Every single bingo name is about his brother. Everything is about how much he could never stop thinking about his brother. His wife might have said, Binyamin, maybe for my father, for my Zayder, had you left in Bnei Brak. Nothing. Everything about his brother Yosef. He says, I have a brother, and I don't know where he is. All my children is al shem ochi v'hatzaras Hashem matzuah. And every name is a different nakuda. Every name is something different.
And look at the Seder, even the Seder of the names.
That's why the Rebbe says that's why Dafka is Gemara Soita, because the other ones, not everything is about his tzodas. And here everyone is about his tzodas. Everyone. So therefore, when it makes sense that when Yosef Atzadik heard this, it was not stam that he saw his brother after not seeing him 22 years. Now that Kedisa begemora Soita, that the Dafka, the Medrash Chazal, the way it's in Soita, that every one of his 10 children were named after his brother and the Tzoris, and now we can answer the kasha. Why all of a sudden? And the Rebbe says Rashi a lot of times follows Unkelus, because Unkelus is very pshat. Unkelus says that the Uchi Yosef Ari is Golgelu Rachmui al Achui Uvoy Lemifki. Usually, when a person has a Rachmanis, is the midas harachim is misgalgaling. We have always the piyut, the midas harachim is misgalgaling. Whatever misgalgaling means, it means that Rachmanis, that's the derech of Rachmanis. Like it rolls. Rashi wants to say no, that it was more than just a regular Rachmanis, which is the din das Rachmanis is usually misgalgal. Rashi wants to say that over here it was something different. Huh? No, Mizgoylo. Is Galgulu. Midas Arachim Alai. Is Goylalu. Is Goylalu.
I know we have that word.
No, not Lashon Gilgul.
Lashon
Gilgul.
How come he called his last son Erd Shiur the Ben How he died? He was murdered.
No. He suspected something is going on. He knew.
He knew that
something is wrong.
That it's not.
Yeah. So therefore, the Rashi, after Rashi says this, Rashi wants to say Nichmuru means Nischamamu. It was not a regular Achmonis. It was like a shock. That's why he was about to cry, even though Yosef was usually very composed. But all of a sudden, he was like shocked his heart. When he saw his brother, he was able to hold in, keep his face as if he's, Spitz Egyptian, he's the king. But when his brother told him about the 10 sons and about the names he gave to his 10 sons, he didn't see his brother for 22 years. His brother didn't see 20 years. He was 9 years old when he was taken away, or 10. And all of a sudden, he sees his whole life he was so connected to him that that it was very, very strong. It was a very, very strong. That's why, and Rashi wants to bring 3 dayas, because it's not so poshut that the word koimer means exactly this. That the koimer means that got heated up. So therefore, he has to bring dafka 3 dayas. And there's a mile, the Rebbe goes through all the rayas. There's a mile in each raya and a chisorin in each raya. And time is a little short, so maybe I'll leave it for another time. The Rebbe goes through every one of the rayas and shows that there's a mila. That's why Rashi needs dafka 3 rayas, and dafka in the last time he brings a posuk oirenu kasanu nechmaru, because over there it's a very strong raya, even though it's not about emotions. It says that Nebuch, the Yidden were suffering in Eicha, that Oirenu Kesana Nechmaru Mipnei Zalafa Serov. Rashi says Nichmor means that their skin was nikvatz, kamotzim, because of the heat that was in their body from incredible amount of rov. When you're fasting, sometimes at the end of the fast, you feel your skin and it's hot. So and Dafke Rashi wants to bring a raya. Rashi wants to bring nichmeru rachma is not the regular yisgalgalu rachma. It's not a regular yisoidus of rachma. It's a brand fire, and for this, therefore, first Rashi has to bring there was a special story, and then Rashi brings a few rayas Dafke from 3 places that would be the best rayas to show his point. And this is
Why in that order?
why in that order. I want to leave it aside now. It's like it's cheshboinus over here. This Gemara with Rabbi Yochanan, and let's leave it aside now. Let's go to the Yiron Avodas Hashem. The Rebbe says, "What's the Yiron Avodas Hashem?" There's a mind from the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe says, based on the Alter Rebbe's mind, the Rebbe says like this: that how does the Yid has to have a rachmanos? The neshama came down on this world. And the problem is that we sometimes forget about the our neshama. There's a rachmanas on neshama. How do we have the neshama has 10 children, and we have to have a rachmanas on our neshama, and that's the whole avodah v'yid. If we just had the rachmanas on our neshama, the whole idea of krishma shalamita is noya katzon Yosef when a yid is in Golos. That he has to be like Yosef, just like Yosef had the rachmonis on Binyamin, nichmeru rachma, said gebrent a groiser rachmonis. A yid has to realize that achi, that my neshama is my brother, my neshama is a chelek kalaka, is a ach to the Eibishter. But ich mach him tzores, for my neshama. I'm making tzores for my neshama. So
thought that the neshama is your essence, not just your brother, but it's you.
No, Alchi to the Eibishter. That's what the Alter Rebbe is saying. And yeah, that the Eibishter, that just like in the Maimon we say,
Oh, now I understand.
and then therefore the Yid thinks that the neshama is the Eibishter's ach, and all of a sudden the Yid Nebuch feels that the neshama is here for a reason, and I'm schlepping my neshama here, I'm schlepping my neshama there, I'm schlepping. And I realized that my neshama, there's Esa Kochas and Nefesh, and then the Rebbe goes through all the 10 names, that it's Nebuch, it's Angolas between the Goyim, and so therefore that's the Inyan, and that's the Inyan of Koy Meshal Zeisim. Koy Meshal Zeisim, I said this is better than Koy Meshal Anovim, because there's 2 things that are very special juices of Chazal, which is Anovim V'Zeisim, as we know from Yechon V'Chsanenin. But if people said this, even though wine is very kosher, shemen is more kosher. And that's why shemen is a shaykhis to Chanukah, right? Shemen in a certain way has a bigger chivas. That's why Rosen the Isis, even though the koyre
is shemen and wine. The wine is more kosher.
That's the way it is. But listen,
We
always say in Chassidus that Rosen the Isis is yena shel Torah, and Rosen the Isis is shemen. So that's it. So you see already that Alpi Kabbalah, that the Shemen is even more. That's why the Rashi didn't want to bring the Raya from Michmor Shel Anovim. He brought from Michmor Shel Zeisim. Even Alpi Pshat, they had a different Shemen. So the Yid has to realize that there is Loyd of Lalechem, V'Loyd Samalamayim, Kim Lishmoyes Dvar Hashem. We have to turn the Pasuk and Eich on its head. That we're turning hot not because we're hungry. Baruch Hashem, we have donuts, we have flesh, we have good zachem. It's not a problem, but we're full of heat out of rachmanas of our neshama. We have unbelievable rachmanas on neshama, and the rachmanas on neshama is connected to michmor shel Zaysim dafke. Because when you squeeze the zaysim, you have shemen, and shemen has a special koyach. The shemen, which is chok meilo, has a shaychas with rachem melyonim. Shemen arosh sheyevid al zok and shekar al skanarin sheyed the pimidoisav. So that's the void of a shem v'yid. The void of shem v'yid is to be just like Yosef Atzadik. That's when we say Krishma by night, that we go into a karum and we slam the door and we're crying because we have Rachmanis on the Shama.
We're crying that we did a Veros. We're crying.
Because it's Tzoros. The Tzoros. Our Neshama is experiencing Tzoros. Sometimes it's our.
stored in the body. That is so. Actually, you take my neshama.
I think just
So
that's the lesson that we take from this thing. That just like Yosef couldn't hold himself back and he cried because he had the Rachmanis on his brother. When he heard about his brother, so sometimes when we he saw him after 22 years. So this is the Yena Shal Torah. So the Yena Shal Torah is that just like child understands that he sees his brother, sees him a second time, then he hears a story from his brother. You know, it's what they say today in the movie industry. You know, to humanize a story. You know, the goyim. When today was Rahman al-Islam, Yidden were being killed by Kiddush Hashem. So the first thing goes out in the news is that there's Bachal nothing to do with Jews and nothing. You know, they try to. It was a beach party. Yeah, a beach party, Kilo. It was a beach party, and Rahman al-Islam. The big thing is to humanize the story. That's the industry, the movie industry, or the entertainment industry, or the news industry. They want to do it in order to sell you advertisements. There's nothing human, shmuman, duman. But the lesson of Avodas Hashem to us is that just like the child Yosef sees his brother, doesn't cry. Sees his brother, he doesn't cry. Then all of a sudden the whole story hits home. When he has a conversation with him, and he hears he has 10 sons and the names, all of a sudden, like, wow, it hits him like a bolt. Nichmuru rachmo. He goes into the room, he slams the door, and he starts to cry. So the Yena Shal Torah is the same thing here. We know we have an neshama. It's Ochiv Shel Kodesh Baruch Hu. We know that there's a lot of tzoros that the neshama experiences. But we have to set aside time to think about how special the neshama is, and think about the tzoros that an neshama has experienced, and then we'll have rachmanis. And when we'll have rachmanis, then there'll be an unbelievable geula for our neshama. Okay, maybe shall help. There should be an unbelievable. Klal Yisrael needs a. Yeah, the Klal Yisrael needs a big geula now.
I'm in Australia. You also spent time in Sydney.
I was in Sydney a couple of times. You know,
The person comes from there.
Yeah, they lived 3 blocks in there.
Does he know anybody that passed away?
I didn't ask him.
Yes.
Very sad. Not much ruined my morning. I woke up early 5:30 and this is what I see.
One of those songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. You think that Sydney.
And you know who jumped on it?
Huh? Right.
No, of course they it's Chris. But either way, it was a nacho.
And he didn't know how to use the gun.